Hey Church Girl, welcome to the Culture Lab. We've got a new series of conversations that we're launching in this new season, and I'm very excited. We've got my friend Leah and Libby joining me today, and the Culture Lab, what's that all about? We're gonna take some time to kind of dissect, discuss different cultural trends, fads, sayings, and I'm actually really excited about this one particularly. We kind of need like a drum roll. No. We're talking today about manifesting.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Okay, what do people actually mean when they say, I'm manifesting that?
We both look at each other.
I know. I think that people mean that they are going to keep wishing and hoping for something to come to pass.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's like bringing about something in your life that
Yeah.
you want.
Yeah. Have you seen recently that it's kind of all over social media?
Yeah. It's
Like-
a very common thing to say.
Yeah,
Like, I'm manifesting this for you, or I'm manifesting a girls' trip in 2024.
Right.
Or I'm manifesting my boyfriend.
Yeah.
He's the next
Yeah.
boyfriend.
Yeah. Do you guys have any success stories with any of that?
I don't know. I guess it just depends. Like, I'm not one to really say that. Like,
Sure.
I'm manifesting this for myself.
But it is interesting because I've seen like one popular clip recently. It's with like, who is it? Like Austin Butler, or I don't know, Jacob Elordi. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
And it was something about a relationship, and it was like she totally manifested that, you know,
Yeah.
like walking on the red carpet or something. And I was just like, what is this? Why is this so popular? Well, why do people think that this is something that works?
I don't know. I think that people like to believe that you can have like being future focused. I think people like to believe in something bigger than themselves. Whereas like
True.
as church girls, not to get spiritual so fast in the conversation, I was trying to avoid the answer.
It's over here.
I was trying to avoid it. So I was like, how do I? But it's church girl.
Yeah.
I feel like when people don't have a relationship with God,
Yeah.
for me, and I know for Leah,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, I'm really believing for this, or I'm really praying for this, or like,
Yeah.
can you believe in this with me? And I think if you don't have that kind of relationship in your life, what else are you to say besides like, oh, I'm just manifesting this, I'm believing this for myself.
Yeah.
And it's like in my own strength, in
Right.
my own like to-do list, I'm gonna make this happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, totally. And I think people have gotten a little bit superstitious with it too. I've even, just as I was kind of preparing for this and thinking about it, I found that there is actually practices that people do. So
Really?
it's called like 3-6-9, like 3 times a day.
Oh.
They manifest or they write something down. And I was like, that sounds like kind of like witchcraft.
Witchcraft.
That's
I was
a
gonna
little
say.
sketch.
Can we call it that?
And I think that maybe people think that, oh, this is just a harmless, like I'm just kind of hoping this, and I want to get my hopes up. And
Yeah.
I believe in having hope, you know, but what happens when, you know, we're kind of supporting this idea that the universe is,
Yes.
that I'm
Yeah.
in control
Exactly.
Yeah.
of my life. I think it comes down to a control
Yeah.
issue. You know?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. I really feel like people just want to have all of the power and, like you're saying, control over their lives. And if they just keep this repetitive behavior, that something will come true.
Yeah.
Not realizing that you need to align with God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think it comes down to this idea, this is kind of what I was thinking about, like this fact or faith versus fiction. Faith versus fiction. And, you know, we serve a God who we believe can actually do miracles in our life, you know, who can work out his purpose through us, you know. But really, one of the things about faith that can kind of feel similar, if we're honest, is, you know, faith is the evidence of things prayed for, hoped for, you know, but not seen, not walked out yet, you know. So I think it's very fascinating that there is kind of an element of like faith and what this looks like for like manifesting, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so as I was thinking more and more about it, I was like, but really what we're doing is we're saying, okay, I'm in control.
Yeah.
And there's this fiction side to things of like, I can make this happen
Right.
for myself. And I'm actually relying on a practice that's rooted more in, you know, ungodly,
Yeah.
Yeah.
maybe even demonic
Yeah.
practices,
Yeah.
you know? And so what would you say to someone who like, they really did think this was just kind of a harmless thing, you know, and they're wondering, okay, how do I kind of shift my perspective, shift my thoughts
Yeah.
to go from like, okay, I'm not going to manifest, but I'm actually going to walk in faith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that there's multiple facets to that, right? Because the first thing when you were talking about journaling 3 times a day and writing things down, well, that actually is a spiritual discipline.
Sure.
If you were doing that with the right focus, then
Right.
you're like on the right track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's fantastic. But if you're putting the wrong thing at the focus, then obviously it's going to lead you in the wrong direction. And I think to make it more basic, like to get on somebody's level,
Yeah.
I mean, I even struggle with like putting my own desires, my own wants, like what I think for my future, like casting my own vision at the forefront and being somebody who's an achiever.
Yeah.
I oftentimes always think that it's dependent on me. Even in my relationship with God, I'm like, oh, God, if I had just done this the right way, then I would be here, or I would have this, or I could just stay disciplined, then I could be achieving this. And I think ultimately it comes down to what we believe, which is keeping God at the focus, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, and surrendering, you know, your vision for your life and getting in alignment with what his vision is and his plan. So I don't necessarily think the practice is wrong. I think that the practice in a healthy setting is the right thing.
Yeah.
But when you have the wrong focus, as with any practice, it can lead to the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, I agree. I think that manifestation really is like manipulation,
Yeah.
and it takes away from the intimacy with God.
Yeah.
Because when you have God, when God has those miracles and you have those moments of like, man, I just had faith and it worked out, and you get in your prayer closet and you really like give it to God, and like you said, you surrender. That builds intimacy, and we love God and we glorify him through all of those things. So when you start to manifest in your own will, it takes away from that.
Yeah.
I totally agree. And you know, it's kind of funny because so what is like if we were going to define it, like you know, manifest, like when something is manifesting, it's becoming visible to the eye or visible to the mind, right? So it's showing what it is, right? So we see that demons manifest.
Yeah.
Right? The demonic manifest. I'll never forget. This is just kind of a weird story.
Oh gosh.
Okay.
But I did a semester in Israel when I was in college, and I went to the Garden of Gethsemane, and we were there at the church, and it was really an interesting vibe in the church because it was all dark and it's gloom and everyone's reflecting and meditating on the sacrifice of Jesus. You know, it's where Jesus obviously went and he said, God, like if there's any other way, take this cup from me, you know, so it represents like a dark space, you know, like night and anguish and pain and saying, God, but not my will, but your will be done. Anyways, I'm sitting in this church and all of a sudden I'm like, you know, you're reflecting on like Jesus, whatever. And all of a sudden, this is kind of spooky, but it's real. So that's why I'm sharing this story.
Oh my God.
This lady in front of me, she's wearing a windbreaker.
Oh no.
And all of a sudden I start to hear her hair like moving on the windbreaker, you know, and going back and forth.
You're like, it's about to go down.
And I could feel it. I could feel it right in that moment. Like, you know, when you can just like sense like this is something's not right. You know, something's not right. And so all of a sudden, like I got up, you know, and I walked to the side, and this lady starts manifesting the demonic. Like her head starts shaking violently.
Wow.
And she's like outside of herself. She's actually there with like a church group. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to do it. So she has like this manifestation, and then all of a sudden it stops, it ceases, and it's like her eyes are like glass, like it's like she's not even there.
Scary.
And why I'm saying that is that the demonic even shows itself. It even manifests itself. It even says, hey, there's something more here. There's something bigger here that maybe isn't seen with the eye at all times. Let me manifest. Let me influence. Let me manipulate.
Yes.
Right? But in the same way, Jesus, he relies on the Holy Spirit, and he manifests the power of God.
Yeah.
Right? The physical, the supernatural power of God goes forth, comes out of him as he speaks life over people, and he's revealing who he is.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's just the reason I wanted to kind of talk about it is because I think we need to recognize that this is a real thing. You know, like this is a real thing.
Yeah.
And if you're not careful, you tap into something that you might not realize is a familiar spirit, a demonic
spirit. Yeah.
And I don't know, what kind of implications do you think that could have on people? Not even realizing that this is kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it just opens doors to other things to come into your life and fall into different areas. And like you're saying, that demonic spirit, you have to be very careful because it could fall into a different area of your life and you're like, why is this happening?
Yeah.
Well, you opened up a door with the manifestation trying to find a boyfriend or whatever the case may be,
sure.
Yeah. No, I had like a picture of just somebody like doing a seance for a boyfriend, which is not a funny,
Wow.
it's not,
Probably
should be
happens.
laughing. Yeah, I was laughing and then I was like, that
That's
probably
crazy.
does
Yeah.
happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it's opening a door, and I think it goes back to kind of what we were talking about at the beginning. People are looking for something bigger to believe in. I think that's just innate in us. I think that is actually the way God created us, is for this desire for worship, to seek out a higher power of ourselves, like outside of ourselves. And so I think that whether or not you believe in the universe or a tarot card reading or whatever, and what you are just like harmlessly trying to find answers to could actually be something that's very harmful.
Yeah.
And so I think, yes, you have to be careful, and that would just be my encouragement to somebody who's on that journey, like having friends who aren't believers. Like, I see also that desire in them to have understanding. Life is hard. Like, you just want to know why. And so I think that is human.
Yeah.
That's natural.
Yeah.
And I think, as with any desire, you just have to be careful where it leads you.
Yeah, totally. And when I think of that, I think that there are lots of things that our culture has recently normalized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's silly, like, oh, it's on a post, like, oh, I'm just like manifesting that. But then I've been seeing like, hey, here's what's in my purse. And have you ever seen these? Like, this is what I got in my bag today.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like one of those posts where they're
It's like,
taking things out. And so many girls, I've seen this on TikTok, have tarot cards with them. They just like carry that around. Like, this is just a part of like what I do and who I am now. And what I want to highlight actually is not like, oh, people are so wrong and people are so evil. What I want to highlight is that people are looking.
Yeah.
People are searching, and people, more than we realize these days, are actually hungry for the supernatural.
Yeah.
They're hungry for spirituality, and I think the church can be better about taking those opportunities and saying, hey, if you're looking for something spiritual, we'll give you, we've got it.
Got it.
We got you. We know, and not just like bashing it, but actually saying, hey, this is a door, this is an opportunity for you to actually come to know like real power, real hope, like a real plan for your life. Job 42:2, it says that God's purpose can't be thwarted. It talks
Mm.
about the purpose of God. It prevails.
Mhm.
And it really all comes back to this idea for us. And this is the reason why I would make a case that you don't want to live your life manifesting, but you actually want to live your life as a sacrifice unto God, holy and pleasing to Him, and to offer your life as worship, right?
Yeah.
And to offer yourself to God's will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's saying, okay, that's the whole Jesus thing. The whole Jesus thing is this. It's not that Jesus is a component to your life that's like an accessory. It's not that He comes and He's a supplement. He just makes you a little bit better. It's that He comes and He saves you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's your Savior and your Lord, meaning that He now has rule and reign in your life.
Yeah.
He's in charge of your life. And I think that's the big thing for people who are maybe searching today for this higher power, for God for someone to come and show them what's next in their life. It's that we live in a peace because we trust in the plan and the purpose and the will of God.
Yeah.
Talk about that, Leah. Like when you came to know Jesus, what was that like, surrendering your will and finding God's will?
It was hard.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I can say. I think I had hit a point in my life where I was just so done with myself. I was done with doing it my way. And I just gave it all to God, not really knowing what I was fully stepping into. But I just gave it all to God. And I said, well, you know what? I'm going to try this out. Why not? I've tried everything else.
Yeah.
Let's try this. And I stayed. I went all in for like a good year and a half. And then I could just have more peace in my life with those things that I was wanting and really giving them to God. And like I said before, spending time in that prayer closet and really like writing it down when I was confused, talking about it with God, getting intimate with God. And now things are starting to come to pass.
Yeah.
And it's only because I have relationship with Him now.
Yeah. And what would you say, like, were there times though where you were like struggling to figure out God's will for your life?
I was gonna say even now.
I might be.
Like all the time.
I might be.
Yeah.
Like we can take something simple like trying to find a job.
Yeah, like
we're here in New York.
with work.
New York
it's a
is
huge one.
definitely like a motivation of why people come here is to grow and get successful and you want to get to the next step and the next pay grade and all of these things. But I realized that it's not going to happen off of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's got to be in God's timing.
Yeah.
So when I struggle with those things, I just surrender it again.
Yeah.
I keep surrendering it instead of trying to figure it out.
Totally.
I think it saves you a big headache, right?
Yeah.
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 Great.
I was gonna say even that, like when you were describing that process, I'm like, oh, I feel like this is something I do every day.
Yeah.
Like
It's
this
constant.
wasn't like one coming to Jesus.
Yeah.
moment for
Yeah,
me.
no.
It's
Yeah.
like daily and like seasonally, of course, as
Yeah.
well. Like being like, God, what do you really want? Like I expected this.
Yeah.
And I thought I would be here, but like where are you in this? Like, am I on the right track? Am I even supposed to be going in this direction? Is this what you want me to be doing for work? Are these the people you want me to be surrounding my life with? I think it's like in and out of season having those conversations with God, because it's really not about a destination or about whatever you're trying to manifest, whether it's a place or a person or a career. Like it's not about those things. Even when you're a Christian, it's not about those things.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's about your relationship with God.
Yeah.
And God wants to do life with us, and He wants to travel with us through those things. Like picking out a new career or going back to school or becoming a mom or finding a friend group. Like God wants to journey with you in those seasons, because that's life. Like it's for ultimately, right, His will. Like, but at the end of the day, I think we focus so much of life on like a thing, getting to a finish line or having the next big thing or wearing the next thing. I mean, it's always focused on like what's next. And I don't think that that's bad. I think God is about like what's next and what's more to come. That's obviously like a theme, but it is also about just being in relationship with him in that process.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I love that. And I think when you said that, I was like, that's a good point. I think a lot of Christians, even without realizing it, actually apply this principle to their life if they're not careful. This
Yeah.
manifesting principle.
Mhm.
And it's like a checkbox it checks,
Yeah.
on principles or things that they want to do,
Yeah.
like habits. And we kind of become like, okay, like if I read my word enough, if I spend this amount of time, I found out the perfect formula. God needs me to spend an hour with him. And what happens is people start going throughout their day and things don't work out. And they go, well, did I not spend enough time with God? I must need to earn this.
Yeah.
I must need to go back and go back to the manifesting. I kind of think it's in the church if we're not careful.
That's true.
I didn't worship long enough. Do I not have enough faith for this? And we start to kind of measure our lives and the reality of our life versus the spiritual disciplines. And we say, okay, this plus this equals
Yeah.
God moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to encourage every church girl today that is not how God works.
No. Yeah.
That God does not require, A plus B plus C in your life, and then finally he'll move. That's not who he is. He's a gracious God who loves you,
Yeah.
who died for you, who has this mercy perspective about you. He says, you're my child. I love you. And my will for your life is not based on your performance.
Yeah, that's great.
That's good.
God's purpose for your life, hear me today, it's not based on your performance. He's not looking for you to check off all of the boxes today. If you're going through a hard season, I want to tell you this. You can look at your life. Yes, certainly unrepentant sin.
Yeah.
Certainly tying yourself to people you shouldn't be tying yourself to. But haven't you seen that some people, even though they've got everything wrong in their life, you can still see God's hand on them?
Yeah. Yes.
Even though someone's doing everything right,
Yeah.
you can still see suffering in their life.
Yeah.
And Jesus says that, the rain falls, the sun rises on the wicked and the just, right? On those who are righteous and unrighteous. And that is the result of living in a broken world in original sin. And so I just want to encourage someone today to not allow the worldly practices to infiltrate and influence your perspective of God the Father.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. I think that's been a big theme for me in my 20s, now that I'm nearing my 30s, which is crazy to say, but
Come on up.
I have,
Welcome.
I have a couple years, everyone. But I think a little context, living in New York and then moving to a city like LA, I think personally one of my strengths is being adaptable. And if you're not careful when you're surrounded by interesting environments, you can just adapt to the wrong things.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think with culture and something like this, it's so easy to be saying these things and doing these things and getting with the trend. And I don't think, I think if you were to say I'm manifesting something, I'm not thinking about twice about it.
Yeah.
But I just have reminded myself now more than ever in this season, I'm different. And that's okay. And what might be a yes for somebody is not a yes for me. And what might be a no for someone is not a no for me. And we're just different, and that's okay. And we don't have to be head to head in our differences, but it's all right. If I just have a difference about me because of who I am and because of my relationship with God and because of the things I feel I'm called to.
Yeah.
And so that would kind of be also my encouragement for church girls. As you're stepping out and thinking about some of these trends that we'll be talking about in the Culture Lab. It's okay. I mean, you don't have to be a sore thumb or a stick in the mud and pushing against people and proving them wrong and being just and mighty in your differences. But it's okay to know in yourself and to have that conviction that you are called to a different standard.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want any church girls thinking that you can go and comment on people's manifesting TikTok.
Not.
Do not quote me because I do not support it.
Yeah.
I am about encouragement. Really, when you think of even the prophetic, when you think of words from God, yes, certainly there were warnings to his people, but almost always the warning was brought back to his intense love for his people.
Yeah.
And when God speaks, he wants you to know that he loves you. And when you speak on behalf of Jesus, because what are we? We represent him wherever we are, both in person and online. You've got to remember that you are a mouthpiece for the love of God. And so anyways, we took some time, we talked about it. What are some takeaways? Help me wrap this up, Leah. What do you think? What can we do now?
Now we can get in community.
We can get in community.
Yeah.
We can get in community. Surround yourself with other girls, other church girls. And if you are confused, you'll have people there to ask questions. Like, don't do it on your own.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's know you're different and know the difference.
Yeah, you're set apart.
Yeah, you're set apart. And I think it's just healthy to have like this kind of dialogue with yourself, with your friends, like to just be thinking, even as you're consuming content, as you're in conversations, as you're in the workplace, to be having these conversations in your mind, like, what am I set to? What do I actually think about this? Like pulling aside somebody you trust and be like, this happened. Like, what do you think about this? Like, challenge what you see. And I think that ultimately, like, that is the kind of stuff that makes you stronger. It makes you like more knowledgeable.
That's right.
So
yeah, beautiful. Thank you, girls. And I would say, you know, give God all of your life. Offer your whole life up to him, and live your life in such a way that honors him and glorifies him. I know a lot of people in their passion for Jesus, and maybe they've just come to relationship with him, you know, they're really careful about things like witchcraft, and I think that's a good thing. You should be. They're really like, oh, I don't do that. I don't practice, you know, vision boards. I don't do, like, I've heard stuff like that before, you know, and then you come back to their life and you're like, but you like get drunk with your friends.
Yeah. Like, what you can do a vision board, sis. Yeah.
And I just want you to know today that this isn't a call for you to have some kind of self-righteousness. But it's actually a call for you to say that God, he gets every part of my life.
That's great.
He gets my words. He gets my attention. He gets my dumb worldly practices. He gets my going out. Like everything is submitted to him. And when I live my life in that way, you'll always find yourself walking in the will of God. He'll always redirect you because you know you got the Holy Spirit in you, convicting you, calling you higher, speaking life into you. And so we love you. We encourage you. Thanks for tuning in to the Culture Lab today. We did it. We tackled a topic, and we'd love to hear from you. If there's other topics that you'd like us to talk about, share, I don't even know what they could be, you let us know right there in the comments. We'll see you soon. We love you.